Imagine a man so so inherently good and just universally admired and unfailingly humble his entire life that his humility literally becomes the motive for a murder.
It sounds totally impossible. I mean, it sounds like a complete contradiction in terms.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But that is the terrifying paradox we were untangling today.
Yeah, it's a big one.
We are broadcasting to you straight from the heart of the Midwest, from Chesterton Radio, the little station right here on Commercial Street in Atchison, Kansas.
Best place to be.
Right. And if you're listening live, you know, that specific quiet magic this town has when the weather kind of settles in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So whether you're in your car or, you know, settling into your favorite chair with a steep mug of tea, it is time to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Today's Deep Dives revolves around a profoundly good story and an even more profound philosophical question.
Which is such a good question.
It really is. Can a virtue become so deeply admired that it quietly, almost invisibly rips into the very vice it was meant to defeat?
That question, I mean, it really rattles the cage of how we typically view morality, don't you think? Oh, completely.
Because most of us think of virtue and vice as a binary switch.
Right, like on or off.
Exactly. You are either doing something good, like helping a neighbor,
Yeah.
or you are doing something bad, like stealing.
Yeah, there's no gray area in that view.
But this proposition forces us to consider the decay of virtue.
The decay, yeah.
The idea that goodness itself, if it's handled poorly or placed on a pedestal, can just calcify. It can literally become a trap.
And to explore the mechanics of how that actually happens, we are diving into an incredible original source today.
So good.
It's a multi-part story titled The Pride of the Humble Broadcast and published by Chesterton Radio.
Yep.
For those setting the stage in their minds, this is a new Father Brown mystery.
And it captures the feel so well.
It really does. It is written entirely in the spirit, the theological framework, and the witty style of the great G.K. Chesterton.
Which is no small feat.
No, definitely not. We're talking about an ancient English monastery, a tragic death, a crisis of reputation, and the search for an objective truth, which is like the ultimate playground for Father Brown.
Oh, for sure.
And for anyone who hasn't spent time with the character, you really have to understand who he is to understand why this deep dive matters.
Right. Give us a quick refresher.
So Father Brown is this small, unassuming, somewhat clumsy Catholic priest from Essex, originally created by Chesterton in the early 20th century.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a detective at all.
Not even a little bit. And our mission today is to completely deconstruct his methodology.
Because we aren't just doing a book report on a whodunit here.
No. We want to understand how this specific detective operates. Because he doesn't get out a magnifying glass.
Right.
He doesn't measure muddy footprints in the garden or analyze the chemical composition of cigarette ash like Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, let's unpack this right away. Because if he isn't using physical forensics like Holmes, what is his forensic tool?
His forensic tool is his theology.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. He solves crimes through empathy, through his time in the confessional, and through this hyper-developed understanding of human brokenness.
So he looks at the spiritual fault lines, basically.
Exactly. He looks at the spiritual fault lines of a situation rather than the physical ones.
So to see that in action, we really have to start at the Abbey of St. Anselm.
We do.
Because in these stories, the atmosphere isn't just set dressing.
No, it's crucial.
It's the theological soil where the whole mystery takes root. And the source text has this vivid sensory opening of Father Brown arriving at the monastery.
Oh, I love that description.
It's beautiful. The silence is described not as a lack of noise, but as a positive thing, like the fragrance of lavender or the color of old stone.
Yes.
There are ancient beech trees arching overhead. And within this ancient quiet, the monks are just doing completely ordinary things.
Right, just the rhythm of daily labor.
Yeah, one monk is pruning roses with this mathematical precision. Another is fixing a wheelbarrow that looks like it's been broken and fixed for 3 centuries.
It's so tactile.
And you've got novices hurrying across the lawn carrying massive books, and the text has this great little humorous aside where it says, the novices imagine those books are much too important for anyone else's arms.
That gentle observational humor is just classic Chesterton.
It really is.
It points out human vanity without being cruel about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's the banter.
Oh, the banter's great.
Father Brown is walking up the hill to the Abbey, and he passes a local farmer driving a hay wagon.
Right.
And Father Brown remarks, I generally find monasteries at the tops of hills. It's only public houses that have the good sense to settle in the valleys.
I love that line.
And the farmer shoots back, that the public houses might have gotten the better bargain.
It grounds the entire narrative immediately. I mean, it really does.
It totally does.
People have this misconception that priests or monks spend their entire lives staring at the clouds thinking only about heaven.
Right. Like they're completely detached from reality.
Exactly, but the text explicitly notes that Father Brown spends a remarkable amount of time noticing horses' weather boots, and this is a brilliant phrase, the peculiar ways in which honest men scratch their heads while telling perfectly truthful stories.
He's completely grounded in the dirt.
Completely. Chesterton's philosophy was that the material world is inherently good.
Mm-hmm.
Ordinary things like wood, dirt, rain, a repaired wheelbarrow, they are actually quite magical if you look at them correctly.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the Abbey of St. Anselm represents that. It's a place of community and ordinary labor.
A counterweight to our noisy world, basically.
Exactly. Monasteries in this framework aren't places where people go to escape reality. They're places where people go to encounter reality in its most unfiltered, raw form.
But hold on. I'm struggling with this a bit.
Okay, what's sticking?
Well, the way the source describes the Abbey, it sounds incredibly peaceful.
It does.
I mean, the bees are humming in the orchard, the hospitality is warm. The abbot literally jokes that they consider their daily soup to be an argument for divine providence.
That's right.
It sounds completely idyllic. But Father Brown explicitly says in the text that perfect places made him nervous.
He does say that.
Peaceful places did not, but perfect places did. And I can't help but think of an analogy here.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's like walking into someone's house where all the living room furniture is wrapped in thick plastic.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It looks pristine, it's completely spotless, but, deep down that nobody can actually sit on that sofa and live there comfortably. There's a hidden tension.
That is a perfect way to put it.
So what is the mechanism here? Why does a detective walk into a beautiful holy place, look at the perfection, and immediately get nervous?
Well, let's run with your plastic furniture analogy because it is spot on.
Okay.
If you walk into a house and the furniture is covered in plastic, what is the homeowner communicating to you?
That they are terrified of a stain. That preserving the image of the sofa is more important than the comfort of the guest.
Exactly. The effort required to maintain that flawless surface is exhausting.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work.
Now apply that to human nature. This is where Father Brown used the concept of original sin as a literal detective tool.
Wait, how do you use original sin as a tool?
Well, how do you calculate original sin at a crime scene? You look for the overcompensation.
Ah, I see.
Father Brown knows that human beings are fundamentally flawed. We are fallen, we make mistakes, we get irritated, we drop things.
Right, we're human.
So when he sees a surface, whether it's a person or an entire community that appears completely unblemished, his instinct isn't to admire it.
Right, his instinct is to question it.
Yes, his instinct is to ask, what is the structural cost of maintaining that flawless facade?
So perfection is a red flag.
A massive red flag. Peace is the acceptance of reality flaws, and all while resting in grace.
Yeah, like you can spill a cup of coffee in a peaceful house, wipe it up, and laugh about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But perfection, at least human perfection, is an illusion that masks a hidden strain.
That makes total sense.
If a place claims to have zero flaws, it means the people there are putting an immense, unnatural amount of psychological energy into hiding the inevitable cracks.
Wow, yeah.
That hidden strain is a fault line. And as a detective, Father Brown is just waiting for the earthquake.
And that skepticism of the quote-unquote plastic furniture leads us directly to the monastery's most perfect resident.
It sure does.
The crowning jewel of the Abbey Brother Matthew. Father Brown arrives just in time for this man's jubilee.
50 years, right?
Yeah, he has been in the monastery for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the way people talk about him, it's almost intimidating.
The adoration is just universal.
It really is.
The abbot tells Father Brown that Brother Matthew is a man who has spent half a century rushing to choose the lowest, dirtiest task before anyone else can even volunteer.
Yeah, he rises before the bell every morning.
He mends everyone's boots. The villagers down in the valley speak of him with absolute reverence.
They really do.
He knows every widow by name. When a young lay brother first mentions the Jubilee to Father Brown, he doesn't just say Matthew is a good guy, he says it has made him a saint.
And Father Brown's reaction to the word saint is fascinating.
It's so telling.
He says he will be very careful what he says in Brother Matthew's presence.
Right.
The lay brother asks why, and Father Brown says because saints generally make one wish to become better.
Mm-hmm.
The text notes, The lay brother was satisfied with that answer, but Father Brown himself was not.
Father Brown is already feeling the unnatural weight of this man's reputation.
It's too heavy for him.
It's way too heavy. Later, the abbot is praising Brother Matthew to the skies, talking about how Matthew actively dislikes attention, but the attention just insists upon him.
Right.
And Father Brown looks out the window at the abbey walls and observes mildly, "I have sometimes thought that admiration is rather like ivy."
The abbot completely misses the point there, too.
Oh, totally over his head.
He says, "Ivy, it can make an old building look beautiful." And Father Brown replies, and yet it may also hide cracks that ought to be repaired.
That right there, that is the thesis statement of the entire mystery.
The safest place for pride is inside of virtue.
Yes.
But this is where I really have to push back a little.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because I'm sure you listening are thinking the exact same thing I was when I read this section.
Right.
If a guy is genuinely fixing roofs for widows in the freezing snow, if he is mending dirty boots for 50 years, if he's rebuilding barns after a flood, why shouldn't he be admired?
It's a fair question.
Why can't a good man just be a good man without a detective showing up and calling his reputation a dangerous weed?
It feels cynical.
It does.
Mm.
It feels almost uncharitable to look at a lifetime of service and say, yeah, but it's probably just pride.
But that is the exact trap Chesterton wants the reader to fall into.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. It feels uncharitable because we look at the outward actions, but Father Brown isn't doubting the actions. He tells Flambeau later that the stories of the good deeds were plainly historically true.
So he did fix the roofs.
Yes, he did all of it. The danger isn't the good works. The danger is the admiration of those good works and what that admiration does to a human soul over time.
Oh, okay.
Let's break down that ivy metaphor because it's not just poetry, it's literal structural engineering.
Sure.
How does ivy actually grow on a stone building?
Well, it clings to it. The little roots dig into the surface of the brick or the stone.
Right, it digs right into the mortar.
Yeah.
And at first it's just a thin green vine and it looks charming.
Very picturesque.
But over decades, those roots thicken. They expand, they widen the microscopic cracks in the mortar.
So it's slowly breaking it apart.
Exactly. If the building is incredibly solid, maybe it can bear the weight. But if there is a hidden structural flaw underneath, the ivy will literally tear the wall down from the inside out, all while making it look wildly picturesque and romantic from the outside.
So the good works are the stone,
Yes.
but the admiration is the ivy.
Yes. Brother Matthew started out loving God and loving his neighbor. That was genuine humility. That was the solid stone.
Right?
But gradually, subtly, over decades of people calling him a living saint, he began to love the image of himself, loving God and his neighbor.
Wow. The ivy took root.
Exactly. He became addicted to his own humility.
Which is the ultimate bulletproof disguise for pride.
Oh, completely. If you are proud of your money, people can see you are arrogant.
Sure, they can spot it a mile away.
But if you are proud of your humility, nobody questions it.
That's terrifying, actually.
It is. You become trapped by the expectations of the crowd. As Father Brown notes, Matthew had become the sort of man whom everyone else believes is utterly incapable of temptation.
Right.
And temptation, Father Brown points out, has a curious habit of waiting patiently until no one believes it can still find the door.
What's fascinating here is that we get to see this dynamic play out at the actual Jubilee celebration.
The Jubilee scene is brilliant.
It is. The villagers have come up the hill from the valley. They are sharing these incredible stories. One man talks about Brother Matthew rebuilding his barn after a fire.
Mm-hmm.
A widow talks about him walking 6 miles in the snow just to fix her roof so she wouldn't freeze. It's deeply, deeply moving.
It sounds wonderful.
And then Brother Matthew gets up to speak. He tries to deflect the praise. He says he has done very little, that any good they remember was just God's kindness.
Classic humble response.
Yeah, he tells the crowd to thank the older brothers who taught him patience. He sits down and the crowd goes absolutely wild with applause.
Right.
It looks like a master class in humility. But Father Brown is watching Matthew's face, and he doesn't see humility.
No, he doesn't.
He sees a fleeting look of relief.
Relief. Not joy, not gratitude. Just relief.
As if he had just successfully navigated a minefield.
Exactly.
As if the speech had ended without some terrible danger being exposed.
Because maintaining the plastic on the furniture is exhausting. Brother Matthew is terrified. He is a profoundly tragic figure. He is not a mustache-twirling villain here.
No, he really isn't.
He is a man who is actively being crushed by the weight of his own legend.
So if Brother Matthew's entire identity is structurally dependent on this flawless facade, What happens when someone accidentally finds a crack?
Well, that's when things fall apart.
Because that brings us to the catalyst of his downfall. And it doesn't come from a malicious enemy.
No.
It doesn't come from a jealous monk or a tabloid journalist. It comes from a historian with a tiny, unassuming leather notebook.
Enter Dr. Julian Harcourt.
Dr. Harcourt is such a great character.
Oh, he's wonderful.
He is described as the sort of classic, dusty historian whose spectacles are always slipping down his nose.
Full of absent-minded courtesy.
Yeah, exactly. The source says he had the curious ability to become far more excited by a faded margin note in an old book than by most living events happening right in front of him.
Which is such a historian trait.
It totally is. He is at the Abbey researching its historical archives.
And we have to emphasize that Dr. Harcourt is entirely innocent in all of this.
Completely innocent.
He has no agenda at all. He is just a scholar looking to document the quiet lives of the anonymous people who built civilization.
Right.
In fact, Brother Matthew is the one who helps him the most, carrying heavy stacks of old account books from the infirmary to the library for him.
But then Harcourt finds something in those books.
He does.
He runs into Father Brown in the cloister one afternoon, and he taps this little leather notebook he carries everywhere. He says he's found one of those tiny historical puzzles that delight scholars and bore everyone else.
Right, just a footnote to him.
He explicitly calls it a very small inconsistency and a misunderstanding. He expects to just verify it in the morning, share a laugh with Brother Matthew about how history gets muddled, and correct the historical record.
A completely harmless intention.
But the next day, Harcourt is dead.
This is where we get the classic locked room mystery setup, but with a deeply philosophical twist.
Break down the scene for us.
So, Brother Matthew goes to the library to bring Harcourt his morning tea. He finds the door unlocked, goes in, and comes out completely pale.
Shaken up.
Very. The abbot and Father Brown rush in. Dr. Harcourt is sitting in a chair at the great oak table. It looks like apparent heart failure.
And the abbey physician, who is an older monk that used to practice medicine in London, examines him and confirms it.
Right. He says it looks completely natural.
Harcourt had a known history of heart weakness. Furthermore, everything in the room is perfectly in order.
Not a thing out of place.
There is no sign of a struggle. Harcourt's hand is resting gently on an open manuscript. The candle next to him was blown out. The ink on the final page he was writing is still wet.
A window is slightly open, letting in the morning breeze.
It looks like a tragic but entirely peaceful natural passing.
But Father Brown, who spends his time noticing horses and boots, he notices something missing.
Yes, he does.
He doesn't search the room, he just absorbs it. He bends down near the table. Flambeau is there, and he asks Father Brown what's wrong.
And Father Brown whispers that barely an hour ago, Dr. Harcourt was carrying that little leather notebook, and now it is gone.
And this leads to just an incredible deduction.
It really does. Later, the abbot is talking to Father Brown, and the abbot is visibly relieved.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't want a murder in his abbey.
Exactly. He says, "So you agree with the physician, it was a natural death, not a murder."
And Father Brown says he does agree it was a natural death, physically speaking.
But then he drops the inescapable question.
He does.
He says, if a scholar dies naturally, who steals his notebook?
It's just brilliant logic.
It is.
If Harcourt just had a heart attack while working at the desk, his notebook should be right there next to his spectacles and his wet ink.
Right there on the table.
The physical absence of that notebook changes the entire spiritual reality of the room.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
The notebook isn't just a physical clue. It represents something terrifying. To Dr. Harcourt, finding this historical truth was like polishing a window so he could see history more clearly. He was delighted by it.
Right, just a happy little discovery.
But to Brother Matthew, someone showing him that same truth was like accidentally touching a mirror in the dark and seeing his own carefully hidden flaws exposed.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
But I have to ask you, why do small truths terrify us more than massive scandals?
Oh, that's a good question.
Because if Brother Matthew had secretly embezzled millions of dollars from the Abbey, his panic makes sense. But Harcourt calls it a tiny historical misunderstanding. Why does a tiny footnote drive a holy man to the brink?
Well, it's because of how identity works. Think about it like a sweater.
Okay, the sweater.
If someone dumps a bucket of paint on your sweater, a massive scandal, you can fight it. You can take the sweater off. You can wash it. You can point at the person who threw the paint and say they attacked me.
Like you can deflect.
Exactly. A massive scandal is an external threat. You can deny it or spin it. But a tiny, undeniable historical correction, that is the single loose thread at the hem of the sweater.
And if you pull it,
If you pull the objective truth, the entire garment unravels.
Oh, yeah.
Brother Matthew had built 50 years of his life, his entire ego, and his entire spiritual identity on the premise that he was exactly the legendary man the villagers thought he was.
So the thread threatens everything.
Everything. The tiny truth in that notebook didn't just threaten a single story from his youth, it threatened the structural integrity of his entire existence.
To Harcourt, it was a footnote. To Brother Matthew, it was an earthquake that was going to shatter the plastic furniture.
Shatter it completely.
Which brings us to the climax, the tragic fall, and the immense suffocating weight of a 40-year lie.
This is where it gets heavy.
It does. The missing notebook proves Brother Matthew is hiding something. But the resolution to this mystery isn't Father Brown finding a bloody knife or a vial of poison.
No, not at all.
The climax of this story is the slow breaking of a human soul.
Father Brown tracks down the truth, not by dusting the library for fingerprints, but by observing Brother Matthew's behavior in the days following the death.
Yeah, he notices the little things.
Right.
Like the way Brother Matthew avoids Father Brown's eyes for the very first time while they were weeding the lilies in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
The way Matthew reacts when Father Brown poses a hypothetical question. Father Brown casually asks if a small misunderstanding from years ago would really matter in the eyes of God.
And Matthew's reaction is so extreme.
He stammers, says truth always matters, and literally runs away across the grass.
And that leads to the emotional crescendo in the carpenter's shed. It is such a masterfully crafted scene.
It really is. Set the scene for us. It's raining outside, right?
Yes, a heavy English rain. And Father Brown has this wonderful internal monologue where he notes that England always looks most honest after a rainstorm.
Why is that?
Because dust disguises things, but rain seldom does. The rain washes the facade away.
Oh, I love that.
So Father Brown walks into the shed. Brother Matthew is sitting there patiently repairing a child's toy cart. He is fitting a new wooden axle for the blacksmith's grandson.
I love the symbolism there.
It's perfect.
Father Brown walks over, he turns the little wooden wheel on the cart, and he says, "It is remarkable how much happiness may depend upon one small thing being straight."
And Brother Matthew replies, completely focused on the wood? Most work is like that.
To which Father Brown responds softly, "So is conscience."
Wow.
Just a gut punch.
The lay brother's hands just stop. The chisel hovers over the wood.
It is a masterful confrontation because Father Brown doesn't yell.
No, he doesn't raise his voice at all.
He doesn't kick the door open and accuse him of murder. He simply starts stating the facts he has deduced, and his tone is so gentle it could almost be mistaken for a prayer.
He tells Brother Matthew that the secret Dr. Harcourt found in those old infirmary books wasn't a terrible crime.
Right. It wasn't malicious.
It wasn't a malicious fault. It was just a mistake. A mistake from nearly 40 years ago.
And here, finally, we get the secret. Yes. We find out what was in the notebook. The legend that cemented Brother Matthew's reputation as a living saint, the absolute bedrock of his local canonization, was a story about him carrying a dying pilgrim 3 miles through a brutal, freezing winter storm.
The epic story.
Yeah, the story was that Matthew had practically frozen to death himself to save this man. But the truth in the old ledger.
What was it?
40 years ago, he didn't carry the pilgrim. They just walked together.
The ledger written by the doctor who treated them noted that the old shepherd actually insisted on walking the final mile himself, laughing off the young monk's help.
So it's this sweet story of companionship.
Exactly. But later, the villagers embellished it. They made it heroic. They turned Matthew into a titan of charity.
And Matthew simply failed to correct them.
He let the lie of omission stand.
As Father Brown says in the shed, he tried to correct them once, very early on, but they wouldn't believe him. They preferred the epic story.
People usually do.
And then, as the years passed, he became afraid to disappoint them. He probably told himself it didn't really matter, that the story encouraged people to be better, that it gave them hope.
Which sounds justifiable in the moment.
But, as Father Brown points out with infinite sadness, gradually you ceased protecting the truth and began protecting the story.
And this exact mechanism explains the murder. It explains what happened in the library.
Right.
When Dr. Harcourt showed Matthew the old ledger, the original record, Harcourt thought it was beautiful.
He thought it was charming.
He thought it was a charming detail of human endurance. But Matthew looked at that open book and suffered a massive, blinding panic attack.
His 50-year reputation was collapsing in an instant.
Yes, he saw the village turning on him, the abbot being disappointed, his entire identity being wiped out.
And seeing Matthew's sudden, terrifying panic, or perhaps just from the sheer stress of the confrontation, Dr. Harcourt had a sudden cardiac seizure.
He grabbed his chest and collapsed.
Let's examine the anatomy of this crime because it is uniquely Chestertonian.
Very much so.
Matthew didn't strike Harcourt. He didn't poison his tea. He didn't lock him in the room to die. When Harcourt collapsed, Matthew hesitated.
Right.
As Father Brown explains to Flambeau later, Matthew stood between two voices. One voice cried, "Save the man," and the other, "Save the legend."
He chose to save the legend.
Yeah.
Before he called for the physician, before he ran for help, he grabbed the notebook and hid it in his robes. He hesitated for less than a minute.
Less than a minute.
But as Father Brian says, sometimes eternity enters through a single minute. That 60-second delay cost Dr. Harcourt his life.
It highlights Father Brown's profound understanding of what sin actually is.
It really reframes it.
Sin in this universe isn't a villain plotting evil in a dark lair. Sin is a momentary tragic choice born of sheer terror.
It was a failure to love quickly enough.
Wow, yeah,
Sure.
Failure to love quickly enough. Matthew was a good man who made a catastrophic choice because he valued his image over a human life, even if only for a fraction of a moment.
Take your armor analogy from earlier. It applies perfectly here.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
How does it fit?
Well, the heartbreaking irony revealed at the end of this confrontation is that the true story, the one in the notebook where two ordinary men are just walking together in the snow, leaning on each other to get home, Harcourt thought that was actually more beautiful than the heroic legend.
It is more beautiful.
Right. It's like Matthew had put on a heavy, suffocating suit of armor his whole life because he thought it was protecting him from arrows. But years later, he is suffocating to death under the weight of it. Dr. Harcourt walks up, sees him suffocating, and tries to unbuckle the armor to help him breathe.
Right.
But Matthew panics, thinking he's being exposed to the arrows, and he strikes out to keep the armor closed. When in reality, the world outside the armor was completely safe the whole time.
That is precisely the tragedy. The truth would have been a liberation.
You would have set him free.
As Brother Matthew breaks down and sobs in the shed, he says, "I had spent 40 years feeling the truth, when the truth was lovelier than the legend."
Ah, that hurts.
He spent his life protecting a story, and the cost of protecting that story was his own soul and ultimately the life of an innocent scholar.
Which brings us to the final movement of our deep dive, and really the core of what makes this story so powerful.
Repentance.
Yes, we can call it repentance before triumph. We've uncovered the tragedy in the shed. The mystery is essentially solved. The quote-unquote killer has confessed to the detective.
Now, in almost any other genre, if this were Agatha Christie or Arthur Conan Doyle, this is where the police kick down the door.
Handcuffs come out.
Right. The detective gives a smug 10-minute speech about how brilliant he is, and the criminal is dragged off to a cold cell while the detective lights a pipe.
But how does Father Brown handle this? It completely flips the traditional detective genre on its head.
It really does. Instead of immediately calling the village constable for a dramatic public arrest, Father Brown places a hand on Brother Matthew's shoulder and says something extraordinary.
What does he say?
He says the hardest part is over. You have stopped defending yourself.
You have stopped defending yourself. Think about the psychological depth of that statement.
For 40 years, Brother Matthew has been on the defensive. He has been standing guard on the walls of this fortress of his own reputation, terrified of a siege.
And the moment he confesses...
The moment the walls come crashing down, Father Brown doesn't see a monster. He doesn't see a murderer to be gloated over. He sees a prisoner of war who has finally been set free.
Father Brown allows Matthew to go to the abbot first, to confess spiritually seeking restoration before any legal judgment takes place.
And there is a profound theological quote Father Brown delivers in that shed while the rain is beating on the roof.
Oh, I know the one you mean.
Brother Matthew is utterly despairing. He is weeping, saying he has destroyed everything, killed a good man, ruined 50 years of faithful service in a single minute.
Right.
And Father Brown replies with this incredible calm swordsman, sin can destroy innocence in a moment, but repentance is measured by another clock.
This illustrates exactly why Father Brown remains one of literature's most distinctive and enduring detectives. Because if you look at Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot, their primary motivation is the intellectual triumph of solving the puzzle.
They want to be the smartest guy in the room.
Right. They want to put the pieces together and prove their own genius. The criminal is merely the final puzzle piece to be slotted into place.
But Father Brown seeks the spiritual salvation of the perpetrator. He is a priest first and a detective second. He desires mercy before condemnation.
So what does this all mean for us?
That's the big question.
When I read this, I couldn't help but think about how our modern true crime media operates.
Oh, yeah. We are obsessed.
We are utterly obsessed with how the killer did it. The blood spatter analysis, the cell phone tower, pings the exact timeline of the poison taking effect. We want the mechanical logistics of the crime.
Give us the forensic details.
Exactly. But here, Flambeau actually asks Father Brown how it happened physically in the library, and Father Brown literally tells him he never bothered to ask Brother Matthew for the physical details because he imagined it.
He didn't need the physical mechanics. He understood the soul's movement.
Isn't this an entirely different way of looking at justice?
It is entirely different, and frankly, it is far more demanding.
How so?
For Chesterton and for Father Brown, solving the crime is almost secondary. It's just the mechanism to get to the truth.
Right, the physical clues are just signposts.
Exactly, pointing to the spiritual reality. The emotional climax of this story isn't finding the leather notebook hidden under a loose floorboard in the workshop.
No, it's not about the clue.
The true climax is when Brother Matthew, completely broken, stripped of his ivy, looks at Father Brown and asks, "Is there still mercy?"
And Father Brown replies there has never been anything else.
That is the triumph of the story. Not that a man is going to face a magistrate, but that a soul has returned to the truth.
The aftermath of the inquiry is handled with such quiet dignity, too.
Very understated.
The village constable eventually comes, statements are given. The physician amends his medical opinion to a cardiac seizure brought on by shock, noting that immediate medical aid might have saved him, but it isn't a certainty. Brother Matthew publicly admits his panic in hiding the notebook. But the text explicitly notes, the law judged him. The abbey mourned him. No one hated him.
Even Dr. Harcourt's family reads the unfinished notes in the ledger and discovers that the truth was gentler than the legend.
And this brings us back to the overarching theme of our deep dive, the silent creeping consequences of pride and the true rugged nature of humility.
At the very end of the story, Father Brown and Flambeau are walking away from the abbey down into the valley. Flambeau is still struggling to understand how a tiny, almost innocent mistake in a snowstorm became such a terrible, destructive sin.
Right.
Father Brown explains that the mistake itself was forgotten immediately. What remained was the admiration.
And that admiration became a possession.
Yes. As Father Brown says, the curious thing about possessions is that we imagine we own them, but they begin owning us.
That hits so close to home.
Doesn't it?
Which really moves us into synthesizing the takeaways for you today. What can you listening to this right now on your commute or in your kitchen learn from a story about an old monk in an English abbey from a century ago?
So much, honestly.
I think it speaks directly, almost uncomfortably, to our modern obsession with personal branding and social media reputation.
Oh, 100%.
We spend so much time curating our lives online, presenting our most virtuous, successful, politically correct, or happy selves to the world. We build these digital legends around ourselves.
We do.
In a way, aren't we all, Brother Matthew? We are terrified of losing the curated image others have of us.
It raises a vital question for all of us living in the digital age, where the plastic furniture is our Instagram feed or our LinkedIn profile.
Right.
When our brand becomes more important than our reality, we are in severe spiritual danger. We begin to make choices not based on what is true or good, but on what will preserve the image.
We might not hesitate to call an ambulance like Brother Matthew did, but how often do we compromise our integrity?
Exactly how often do we stay silent when we should speak up, or speak loudly when we should listen, just to protect the legend of who we are to our peer group?
Father Brown provides a beautiful, piercing definition of true humility at the story's end. He says pride asks to be remembered. Humility is content to be forgotten, provided that God is remembered.
Humility is content to be forgotten.
That is so radically antithetical to everything our culture teaches us. We are told to make our mark, to be seen, to be influential, to build a platform.
But Father Brown says the saints are not those who never fall. They are those who stop defending themselves when the truth finally calls their name.
Brother Matthew wasn't truly humble when he was mending boots for the applause of the village. He became truly humble the moment he stood in that shed, stripped of his 50-year reputation, and accepted the truth.
The abbey lost a legend that week, but it recovered something infinitely greater. It recovered the truth.
And where truth is welcomed with repentance, even profound sorrow becomes the beginning of grace.
That is why Father Brown remains such a towering figure in literature. He doesn't just understand the mechanics of a crime. He understands the architecture of the human heart.
He knows that we are all capable of terrible things if we let our virtues become idols.
But he also knows that we are all capable of profound redemption the moment we stop hiding behind the ivy.
I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought. to mull over as you go about the rest of your day. Building on what we've unpacked here, I want you to imagine a scenario.
Okay.
If someone right now found a letter notebook that contained the absolute raw, unembellished truth of your greatest accomplishment, the thing you are most proud of, the thing your family or colleagues admire you most for.
Right.
If the raw, unedited truth of that moment was suddenly placed on the table for everyone to see, would you feel liberated? Or would you be terrified? Does the legend of who you are prevent you from being the person you actually are?
That is a heavy question. That is a question worth taking into the silence.
It really is. And we want to remind you why stories like The Pride of the Humble matter so much today. They remind us that the world is far more mysterious, far more dangerous to our egos, but ultimately far more hopeful than it appears on the surface.
There is always mercy. There has never been anything else.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. If this story sparked something in you, if you found yourself questioning your own ivy, we invite you to discover more original mysteries, classic radio dramas, thoughtful essays, morning prayer, and literary conversations over at Chesterton Radio.
We love exploring the golden age of radio and the enduring wisdom of the Christian imagination.
We hope you'll come back and explore with us again.
Absolutely.
Until next time, remember the station's signature sign-off. The open door is always on. You can find the 24/7 live stream at live.chestertonradio.com. Take care of yourselves and remember to check your own ivy.